that was a strike and a half. Wow, that was crazy. Hey guys, Cal Kellogg here. I get a ton of questions about downriggers. I get questions about using downriggers on a boat. I get questions about using downriggers on a kayak. I get questions about what a downrigger is and, you know, very basic stuff. How do you use a downrigger? So I decided to do this video. This is Downrigger 101. I think it's going to be useful to both kayakers and boaters. This is going to be absolute entry-level stuff. Let's go over downriggers. I'm going to be using the GoPro, which I'm talking to you, on now, and I'm also going to be using this handheld, so we're going to have some edits and some cuts. But I think it's going to be valuable instruction for a lot of you guys out there that aren't that familiar with downriggers, their function, their uses, stuff like that. So let's get started. I'm going to whip out the handheld here. Now, obviously, I'm out in my kayak. Okay, I'm out in my kayak today, and I am using my downrigger. This is my little Scotty portable downrigger. It drops into a Scotty mount, which I have mounted right on the H rail of my Hobie kayak. It has a very short arm that's very strong. It's stainless steel. This is the spool. This is where the line sits. It came with steel cable, which is still on there, but I have taken the braided downrigger line and I've put it over the steel, primarily because the sound of that steel cable going through the water just started to drive me crazy after a while. So I put on the braid. I think this is like 200-pound test braid. It comes from Scotty, and it works very well. Let's look at the end tackle on the downrigger. Let me pull it aboard, and then I'll fire this camera back up and we'll have a closer look at it. Now here's my basic setup. This is my end tackle. Here's this is the braided line. It comes down to a giant snap swivel right there. This is where I have my downrigger clip attached. This is a downrigger stacking clip. This is my downrigger release, or my clip, which I attach right here. I snap it right into that giant snap swivel. The snap swivel, I have it attached to one of these Scotty downrigger bungees, and basically it's just a section of really stout rubber or latex. It just serves to cushion the downrigger ball. It doesn't allow it to slam real hard against the rail of the kayak. It just cushions everything. And down here at the bottom, I have another one of those stacking clips which came attached to that bungee, and that's where I've got my ball attached. This is a 4-pound ball. I got it on Amazon. I absolutely hate this ball. It oscillates through the water, and that oscillation is transferred up to the rod tip. Having said that, it works fine. I've been looking for a torpedo-shaped or pipe-shaped 4-pound weight for a while. I'll find one, and I think that's going to work a lot better. If that doesn't work better, I'm going to go to a ball that has a more aggressive fin, because that oscillation, it's transferred to the rod tip all the time. And it's important when you're downrigger fishing to watch the tip of the rod to see if you've got a fish on the line, because they don't always release from the clip, but we'll get to the clip in a second. So that is the basic rigging of the downrigger. This is the weight that gets everything down. This is the downrigger clip where you attach your line. Just like a clothespin. Several companies make these. They're all basically the same. I'll get some close-up footage of this when I'm done talking about it. We'll lace it in here. One thing I like about this one, I actually got this one from Randy Berquist. He's a guy that makes tackle. It had willow leaf blades on it, which I took off. They were supposed to attract fish, and they probably would have. I just like the length of it. I don't like a really short cable or piece of line on my downrigger clip, because I don't want to bend over a whole lot. I actually have this special tool that I made. It's just a piece of carbon fiber rod with a bungee cord hook on it that I can reach down and I can grab this and bring it in the boat when I attach my line. And you'll get to see that process in a second. But long story short, I like a fairly long line on my release. And again, these all work. They work like a clothespin, just like that. You pinch your line in there, and it holds it until the fish comes along and hopefully pulls the line off. I do like chartreuse colored releases. Scotty makes a great release. It's black and it has chartreuse jaws. I like the chartreuse color because I can kind of gauge water clarity with it. Depending on how far down I can see that chartreuse clip, I can make judgments about how clear the water is. So that's just a little quirk of mine. The Scotty ones work great. I don't know. Well, this is a Scotty one too. It says so right there. So that's an all chartreuse Scotty one. So Scotty, they make great downrigger releases. Vance's Tackle makes great releases. Sepp's releases work just fine. But my choice, the Scotty releases, I like them. They're very durable. They work very well. They won't let you down. And I love that chartreuse color, whether it's all chartreuse like that one or just chartreuse on the jaws. So let's get this guy in the water and I'll show you how I employ the downrigger. So, of course, now that is a 4-pound weight, so I'm going to ease it into the water. I'm just kind of let it over the side. Keep everything as straight as possible. Let it down just like that. And there we go. Now, the small Scotty here, let me get back to the handheld. It's really a pretty ingenious piece of equipment. So the Scotty, here's how it works. You know, you've got the stainless steel arm. There's a little pulley out there on front. That pulley swivels around. Your downrigger line goes through that pulley and down to the weight down there. This right here is your brake. If I loosen it up like that, you can start to see the line will go out. So about one crank of this, kind of count. One crank is down 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet. Now, if you're using a boat, they've got more sophisticated counters. They have numbers on them and you can see exactly how far you're down. But this one here, you just count how many revolutions down you are. And then when it's time to crank this up, well, when you're fishing, you tighten that down. That keeps it, firm so it's not paying out line. But when you want to crank it up, you loosen this brake back up and you crank it on up just like that. Now, as you can see, if you're fishing in very deep water with this thing, you're going to be doing a lot of cranking. So I like to bring that clip up to right about there. You reach over, you lock that off, and you get a little forward momentum going here, and you'll see that release. See that release blow back right there? So that's going to blow back into that position there. And another thing you'll notice, in the kayak, I face my arm out that way because, you're going to get some water pressure, you're going to get some blowback on the rod tip and on the cable when you're under speed. And I don't want it, I don't want it behind me back here. I want it out here where I can see what's going on. So let me hook a line on here and you'll see how this system works. So as you saw, that release, it's swimming right there, right under the surface of the water. So you're going to take your lure, and in a situation like this where I'm fishing, fairly shallow, I'm going to be fishing in the top 10 feet of the water column. I'm going to put this back about 65 feet. If I was fishing really deep, I would put it back maybe 30 feet, 40 feet, maybe less, depending on how deep I was. If I was going for king salmon, I might run a very short release, but long story short, for shallow water trolling like I'm doing today, I'm going to put this thing back about 65 feet. So I'm at 55 and right there, we're about 65 feet. So what I do when I want to put the line down in the downrigger, it's just working on the surface now, I take the reel, I leave the reel disengaged right there, but I put the clicker on. The clicker's on, so that prevents the line from just paying out, I grab the rod like this with the clicker on, slide my hand over the tip, and I get a hold of that line. Once I've got a hold of the line, I put the rod in the holder, just like that. Notice I'm still pedaling. I'm not going the speed I want to go. I'm pedaling forward here at about 1.4 miles an hour just to keep the line back there in position where I want it. Now I take my little handy dandy homemade hook here and I'm going to grab that release just like that. So now, hopefully you can see that. I've got the release in my hand and I'm going to clip that line in it. And I'm going to clip it in there just deep enough to keep it in there as I troll. I want it in there as lightly as possible so that when the fish comes along and grabs the lure, he can pull the line out of the clip. That doesn't always happen, but that's the goal. So once I got the line in the clip, I look back, make sure the line's all clear. I'll loosen that brake on the downrigger. Let me grab my handheld here. I'll loosen that brake on the downrigger spool like that, and I'll start to crank it down. Just like, I got to make some adjustments there. Just like that. You can see it's going down. So that's down about where I want to go. I'll tighten that brake back up. And then I'm going to reach over here. I'm going to kick the reel into gear, take the clicker off, and I'm going to bring that rod tip down a little bit. I want it loaded against the clip, but I don't want it buried. That's important. I want to be able to see if I've got a fish on there that didn't release from the clip. You hope that every fish you catch is going to release from the clip, but a lot of times, probably half the time, you'll just see the fish going like that. You'll see the rod tip shaking. You're going to grab your rod in that situation, reel down, thumb the spool, lift it till it pops out of the clip, and go ahead and fight your fish, just like that. So that's how that works. But the goal is to have the fish pop it out of the clip. If it's a big fish, they'll usually pop it out. If the fish are really active, they'll usually pop it out. There's no guarantee they're going to pop it out. So just remember, don't overload the rod. Just load the rod enough, you know, against the clip that you're going to be able to see the tip dancing if you've got a fish on. The longer the fish fights against that clip, the better the chance you have of losing that fish, because the hole in their mouth is getting bigger and bigger. That's not that crucial when it comes to trout fishing, but if you're fishing for kokanee, that's absolutely essential. You want to fish with a light clip, as light as possible, just enough to hold that line in the clip. You want it to pop immediately. If it doesn't pop immediately, you got to be Johnny on the spot and pop that rod out of the clip to avoid losing a bunch of fish. That's about the story of downrigger fishing. Using a downrigger in a boat is a little bit different. Most guys use electric downriggers now. They're a little more sophisticated. It's electric up and down. Actually, I think the Scotties they use gravity to take them down, but they use electric to bring them up. They've got line counters on them and all that stuff. But the basic function is the same. It's a heavy weight combined with a clip. You clip the line from your rod into that clip. You let it down to the desired weight, and you control at any depth you want. Controlled depth trolling. That's what it's all about. So that's Downrigger 101. I hope that helps you have a fairly basic understanding of downriggers, how to use them, what they're for. They're an indispensable tool. If you have to fish deep, if you're in a situation where you've got to get down and you've got to fish deep, you have to have a downrigger. You're just not going to be able to get down to the fish. If the fish are in the top, 30 feet of the water column, I much prefer to use my hybrid lead core system, but you got to have both. If you're a serious trout fisherman or salmon fisherman, you got to have both downriggers and lead core, in my opinion, because they're just two different tools that are going to help you out in different situations. I'm actually going to stow my downrigger for now. I'm Kel Kellogg. I'm signing off. I've got 46-degree water and I see fish right on the surface here. Not exactly work for a downrigger. I'm going to bust out a top line and some lead core and hopefully be yelling fish on. If you want to be yelling fish on, get on over to the fishhuntshoot.com store. That's where you'll find my Signature Series downrigger rods, my iconic yellow lead core rods, all the tackle you see me using here on the channel, all the stuff you see me catching fish on. It's all featured in our store. I want to thank you guys for all the support in 2020. We're looking forward to an exciting 2021 fishing season, and I will catch you next time right here on YouTube. I'm Kel Kellogg, and you have a great day.
Trout rods, salmon rods, striper rods, halibut rods, downrigger rods, lead core rods, spinning rods, and more. If you want a high quality, high performance rod that won't let you down out on the water, go to fishhuntshoot.com and check out our selection of high quality, high performance fishing rods.